What is accountability? Well, basically, it means that anybody who's got agency in their life, which means they essentially have power to influence what their life consists of, they're accountable. If you're overweight, you're fat, you're obese, that's on you. You're accountable for it. There's no excuse. It is a very simple mathematical reality that there's a calorie intake, things that you put in your mouth, and then the calorie consumption of how much do you burn per day. If that's on a surplus, you're going to get fat. If you're on a deficit, you're going to lose fat. It's that simple. Um, if you're an alcoholic, it's on you. You're responsible. Nobody's putting a gun to your head, said, open up and chuck that alcohol inside your body. It's on you. And whatever, let's say, secondary effects said, let's say, overweight or alcoholism brings into your life, you are directly held accountable for that because it was your choice. Are you smoking cigarettes? Are you doing drugs? Do you have a short fuse? Are you impatient? Do you have ADHD? Do you feel depressed? These are all things that you are accountable of, and there's no excuse. Now, what you can do is you can either choose to be a victim and say, oh, well, poor me, things A, B, C, D happened, and as a result, now I'm in the trenches and I'm suffering. Or you can say, look, there are some things that can happen in life that are outside of my control, and there's actually plenty of them. But what I can influence at 100%, the only thing I can have 100% influence over is my attitude towards what happens in my life, right? Through history, there's been about 200 billion people that have lived, and most of them are dead, obviously. We've got about 8 billion plus alive right now. Life has not been this good for the vast majority of people today through history. Things are better now than they have ever been. Yet, more people are complaining now, and now I'm kind of talking about the West. More people are complaining and thinking, oh, the world is going to end for whatever reason because the economy is going to crash, the climate is going to end, there's so much crime, there's so much poverty. It's complete bullshit. Things have not been better through history ever compared to today. Even extreme poverty has been reduced by a huge amount in the last 20 years. Why don't people know about this? Because they're ignorant. And ignorance is also a choice. If you don't understand what the hell is going on in this world, you don't understand the background, you don't understand the statistics, you've not taken the time to research. And that makes you ignorant, and whatever your opinions might be, you sound stupid. That's on you. That's on you for not educating yourself. And it doesn't matter if you have an academic degree, you've got a bachelor's, you got a master's, or you got a PhD. It doesn't make you necessarily less ignorant. Or if you have a title that sounds fancy, you are vice president or you're whatever, you're a doctor or a lawyer, it does not mean that essentially you might be, let's say, good at a very narrow function. But outside of that, the level of education in the broader sense of the word, you might be a complete retard. And the problem with the ignorance part is, if you don't do the research, you have a set of beliefs in your head that are based on nothing but hot air, right? And then when you get challenged on your opinions or your values or your belief system, you get triggered. And instead of saying, damn, maybe I should take a look and kind of dive into it and see if there's potentially some room to readjust my opinions, thoughts, and beliefs. Generally, the majority of people, they just start projecting, oh, that person must be an asshole, that person must be, this and that and the other. So they don't actually allow the new information to sink in and, let it simmer there for a bit and be like, okay, I'll do a little bit of research and see if they have a point or not. If they don't have a point, I'll just be like, well, it was BS, forget about it. But if they do, in that event that whatever they said, at least partially it's true, it is incumbent upon you to take that into consideration and adjust your thoughts, your values, your opinions. But most people don't. And then a certain gentleman said, what is the definition of insanity? It is repeating the same thing over and over and over and over and expecting a different result. Like, sure, you think you might be a tough guy, beat your head against a concrete wall long enough. You're going to get a headache, right? You're going to start bleeding. What are you going to do then? Be like, maybe this is not a great idea. Let me rethink. Let me reconsider. Maybe there's an alternative. Or do you go like, well, I'm tough. I know what I want. I'm not going to give up. And you keep beating your head at the wall. You're just going to get a headache. And yeah, you're going to start bleeding and break your skull. So by that, I mean, there are days when perseverance is really good. But you have to know the line between where do you cross between perseverance and just being an idiot. So what I'm saying about accountability, that is, men have the burden of performance in life, right? If you're a man, you're an adult, able-bodied man that has an IQ that's higher than twice your shoe size, you don't have an excuse. You don't have any excuse for not being in shape, for not being broke, and for not being socially calibrated properly, which means you can interact with people constructively, to put it that way. If you're broke, you're fat, you're socially awkward, man, and your life is not what you wish it would be, it's on you. If I was a little rough on the edges, I might say you are living the life of a loser, and that is a result of your own choices. And generally, it is a lack of perseverance and just plain laziness. And putting it on the other way, for women, it's even worse if they don't take care of the way they look. Because the way a woman looks is the primary agency she has in life when it comes to the opposite sex. Men are very visual creatures. When we see a woman that's well put together, it always triggers something. And women who look good, they understand at a very deep level that that's the agency that can elevate their position in life. They can make their life a lot easier. But if you're a woman who doesn't take care of yourself, you're overweight, yeah, it's like you're missing the biggest point in life. It's kind of the same thing. If you're a guy who's 30 or 40 or 50 and you're broke, sorry, man, you're a loser. There's no excuse. If you're broke at 20, okay, it's cool. But you need to build yourself up. And it's upon you. There's no excuse. So when it comes to accountability, I always say, look, sure, bad things happen. Yeah, they could be accidents. There are people who get killed by accident, get paralyzed. They have a business that's thriving. Something happens. They just lose it all. That's possible. But also, these obstacles in life that we face sooner or later, how do we overcome them? That's why they say you either win or you learn. And the person who's learned enough, they tend to win in the end because they know how to avoid the pitfalls of how do bad choices result in bad outcomes. So my point of the accountability part of it is that in the 2020s now, there is a subset of the population that is always talking about, whatever, oppressive patriarchy. I'm the victim because either I'm a woman, I'm a minority, or I'm a midget, or I'm this, or I'm that. So that means I'm higher on the victim totem pole. But the problem is these people, when you really get to know them a little bit, they're very unhappy. Why? Because they deny the agency in their own life. They're not accountable for their choices. They're losers, but they say, oh, it's somebody else's fault, right? Now, if a woman does that, I think it's a little bit more socially acceptable. If a guy does that, he's a pathetic loser. Sorry, man. It is what it is. But obviously, now that women say, oh, we're 50-50, it's all equal, gender is a social construct, then we're at a point when if a guy says that he's a pathetic loser, so is a woman. Okay, cool. So, yeah, get your life together. You got bad habits, you got bad friends, get rid of them. What, you can't live without your friends or your bad habits? Well, yeah, okay, you're weak. You want to be weak? Really? You want to be a victim? Is that something you really want? If you got kids, do you want to see their father or their mother being a slob, lazy, fat, potentially alcoholic, kind of useless person who just complains? Is that the model you want to give your kids and the people around you? Really, is that it? Or do you want to be somebody who just wakes up in the morning, says, I'm happy to be alive, I'm grateful for whatever I have, and I will work and I will do my best today to become a slightly better version tomorrow? You might not have all the genetic or whatever advantages that somebody else has in life, but who cares? Your job is to be the best version of yourself. You're competing against yourself. Obviously, you have to challenge yourself with other people to see at what level you are in whatever endeavor you're engaged in. But as long as you become a better version of yourself from one day to the next and you keep doing that for years and decades, you're going to be a winner. Like I'm not skilled or talented or genetically gifted in any sort of way, but the one thing I have noticed when it compares to a lot of people is when I decide to do something, I'm committed to that. And I keep doing it until long enough until I become good at it. And then once I'm good at it, I'm like, okay, that was a lot of work and it took a lot of time, but hell, I did it. And at the same time, I see a lot of guys and girls who just give up and they say, oh, I'm too busy, I'm too stressed, I'm this and that and the other. And then a couple of years later, they're like, well, it's easy for you to say when you're this and that and the other. Okay, great. How did I get there? Did I just buy a box of cereal? And so, like, oh, well, there's a bit of a lottery ticket. Okay, I'm a winner. Is that it? Okay. Anyways, that's my rant on accountability. Yeah, until next time.